Hey everyone, welcome back for another video. My name is Tanya, for those of you that are new here, and I'm a watercolor artist. So my most favorite thing to paint are whimsical, colorful little landscapes. So I thought I'd show you the process how to paint one. I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so to get started, I've got my Arches watercolor paper. I have several different sizes of my Grumbacher paintbrush. I'll let you know what size I'm using as I'm going along. I've got a pencil, a paper towel, 2 cups of water, one for cool, one for warm colors, and I have my Winsor watercolors. All right, so to get started, what we're gonna do is we're gonna lightly sketch out where our landscape is gonna be placed on our page here. So what we're gonna do is we're going to just start with some hills and just lightly sketch them out. And you can have your hills going any which way you want. And I think I'm just gonna have mine going like that. Actually, I'm gonna bring this one down a little bit more. Like that. And I'll take my eraser. I'm gonna erase this line here because I think that hill was just a little too high. Yeah, that looks better. All right, and then I'm gonna have this tree coming from the foreground here. So I'm gonna do a nice skinny trunk going up. And then it's gonna be a little bit more of an oval shape for the actual where the leaves are gonna be. So I'm just gonna lightly sketch out the placement of where I want my tree. And it's okay if it's bleeding off the side here. If you wanted your tree in the middle, it might cut off some of your, where your hills meet. It might cut some of those off, so I'm not sure if you're gonna like that. So I just placed mine on the side here because I like to see where the hills meet each other. And that's about all I'm going to draw. I'm going to erase some of my lines here that I don't need. All right, so that's really about all we're going to draw. So I'm going to start with my 1/2 inch Grumbacher paintbrush here. And I'm just going to start probably from the bottom hill and work my way up a little bit. So I'm just going to put some water on this bottom hill. Now you don't want it overly saturated. You want just the right amount of water. So if you feel like you have a little bit of a pool there of water, just kind of wipe it off and wipe it on your paper towel. You just want your paper damp. All right, I'm gonna pick up some of my yellows here. I think this is my yellow ochre. And it doesn't matter what colors you're using. It's just gonna be a really whimsical landscape. So I'm just gonna use like pretty much whatever's on my palette. I'll let that bleed down. And then I want to bring a little bit of my sap green going up. So the two of these meet. And just be careful not to go on your trunk. There. And I like how those two are meeting. Then they'll just kind of merge together. You can blend it up a little bit more if you want to. There. That's about all I'm gonna do. All right, so since this is wet, I'm gonna go to the hill up here, the top hill. And then I'll probably, if this is still wet by the time I'm done with this hill, I'll probably dry my painting to go on to the 2 middle hills. All right, and this one here, I'm gonna bring in more of a mixture of a violet and an opera pink. And here again, I'm just gonna let it bleed down. And I think I'm gonna bring in a little bit of more of a red and let those two merge. Kind of like I did down here, I'm gonna let those two merge up that way. And then we can always go in and put more layers on once this dries. All right. I think I'm gonna go ahead and dry this really quick, and then I'm gonna go on to these 2 hills here. Okay, so it's all nice and dry. So I'm gonna do the same thing to the other hills. I'm gonna get it nice and saturated here with just some water, but not too saturated. You just wanna get it nice and damp. And you can look at your page sideways in the light and you'll see where it's glistening, then you know you do have water in that spot. And I think I'm gonna pull in more of well, first I'm gonna start with my sap green on the bottom. because I want two colors to merge together again. So I think I'm going to do my sap green on the bottom. like that. And then I'm gonna pull in, I believe this is my Winsor blue green. I just love this color. And let those two merge. There, you can help it down a little bit if it's not merging as nicely as you wanted it to. Just help it down a little bit. All right, I'm gonna let that dry. And I think I'm gonna go on to my sky at this point, because if I do this hill here, it's gonna bleed into this one. So I'm gonna turn my painting upside down. I do still have a little bit of blue on my brush, which is okay. I'm gonna do a little bit more of a pinky sky up this way. So I'm gonna take my opera pink. I'm gonna work it down. Maybe I'll take a little bit more, make it a little bit more vibrant. And I'm just gonna have it be really light as it gets to the bottom here where it touches that first hill. I'm gonna have it be a little bit lighter. I think I want a little bit more pink in this area up here. Yeah. Because we're gonna be popping in some clouds and I want the clouds to stand out. I'm going around my tree at this point. If any of the sky is peeking through, I'll add that a little bit later, but I'm just gonna leave my, my tree nice and white right now. All right, so I just tore off a little paper towel. Actually, let me get a dry one. That one was kind of wet. So I'm just tearing off a little piece of my paper towel and I'm gonna go in while my sky is still wet and I'm gonna start forming some clouds. And you just wanna kind of pounce your paper towel and just lift up some of that paint. See, it's coming on the paper towel here. Just turn it over and just pop in some clouds wherever you feel you need some. Maybe even a little bit down here. That's pretty. So the darker your sky is, the more your clouds will show. All right, I think I might pop one in up here. There. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and dry this hill really quick so we can go on to that one. All right, so I am moving over to my size 7 and I'm gonna just go ahead and get my hill wet. And both sides of the tree. If you have any of your hill popping out on this side, don't forget this side. And I'm gonna do a little bit more of an orange on this side. Actually, I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of yellow. Just go around your tree, let it start bleeding up. This one I started from the bottom up. The others I started from like pretty much the top. This one I'm starting from the bottom. No rhyme or reason, that's just what I chose to do. If you start from the top, that's totally fine. Make sure you go around your trunk and start bleeding it up. I'm taking off some of that pigment on my brush. I'm gonna bleed it up a little bit. There. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit more pigment down here. Okay. We'll see how that blends. All right, so I think I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow. Using my CAD yellow, I'm gonna just brighten up this hill a little bit here. Careful not to touch your orange that you just did, or you could go ahead and dry your painting at this point. I'm gonna blend that in with just some water. So these are just supposed to be really fun, whimsical little paintings. All right, I think I'm gonna add a little bit more of my sap green on the bottom. Oop. Let those bleed up together. Okay, and let's go back to the top hill. I want to just brighten that up a little bit. Blend it out. I just added a little bit of purple at the top and I'm blending it out. Just add a little extra dimension to this hill. And I think I might add a little bit more of my opera pink down here. Just, you know what, I think I'm going to pull in a little bit of my red also. Yeah, more of a pinky red. Okay, so I want some lines coming down on this, actually I'm going to use my size 7. I want some lines coming down on this hill here. So I'm going to give my lines a little bit of a curve. Just follow the curve of the hill. Careful going into your next hill here. You don't want to. You don't want to touch that other color, just in case it's still a little damp. And then I'm going to add a little bit of extra blue up here. And you could just take some clean water and just run that across, blend it all in so it kind of fades into the background. And if you want, you could bring some of this part down a little bit, just to shade a little bit of extra, that hill there, just so it's a nicer transition. There, that looks nice. All right, we're gonna deepen up the oranges now on this one. And now that is still wet there, so I'm gonna try not to touch it too much. You could always go ahead and dry this before you do this part, but I'm just gonna trust it. And I think I'm gonna bring up a little bit of my yellow, my ochre. Just give it a little bit of ochre up here. Let those two merge together. So when you start doing some colors that merge together, like the purple and the pink or the yellow and the green, it just starts adding a little extra like interest to your painting. It gives it a little bit more dimension. It just makes it pop a little bit more. You can add a little more yellow. Blend that in together. Really, really pretty. All right, so I think I'm going to add a little bit more depth. Oh, you know what I want to do is I want to add some little trees in the background here. So I'm going to take more of my violet and my opera pink. I'm going to make a little mixture here. And I'm going to do like little evergreens in the background. So I'm taking my size 0 paintbrush and I'm making a little line. And they don't have to be detailed because they're far, far, far away, all the way up on this little hill. You can blend them together if you want. You can add as many as you want. If you want just a few here in the background, that's fine. I think I'm going to take it all the way down the hill. And then blend it into your hill, because that's a shaded part. Wherever your light source is, let's say your light source is from behind, it's shading this part of the hill here. So I'm going to add even a little bit darker. Maybe that's a little too dark. There we go. And I'm going to bring that color even up into the base of the trees. I'm just dabbing it on. Okay, I'm going to take my size 5 and I'm just going to blend in this hill a little bit better because I don't want that stark line there. I want it to look like it's a shadow. Oop, I added a little too much water. Take some of that off. And I think at this point, I want to add a little bit more of a reddish tone down here, a pinky red, just to pop this hill a little bit more. It was just looking a little too flat. I'm going to move to my size 7 just to blend it in. So I keep switching brushes, sizes, depending on the area that I'm doing. If I want a little detailed area, I use a smaller brush. If I want more of a wash, then I use my larger brushes. So just, it depends on what area of the painting you're working on. That's really, really pretty. Actually, I think I want to deepen it up just a little bit more. I love my paintings to pop and be very colorful and whimsical. But if that's not your style, you might want to tone this down. You might want to just maybe do it like a monotone. You could do like all shades of green or all shades of blue. You could do more just natural colors like browns and oranges and yellows. I'm choosing to do a very whimsical palette. That's just my style, but I get it. It's not everybody's style. So just use whatever color palette you want. It's starting to bleed into my yellow here again because I did not dry it. I'm just going to pick up some of that a little bit here just to stop that bleed once again. Okay, so I am going to take my size 7 and I'm going to make more of like a limey green leaves with some yellow. So I'm going to start out with my sap green. And I'm just going to pounce a little bit here and there. Blend them together so they look like leaves. Do leave some negative space though. You want your sky or your hills peeking through a little bit. You don't want to just saturate this with just all one color. And then we're going to be bringing in some yellows and stuff, almost like the leaves are starting to change. Now you could have done your wash of your sky or your hills first. The only thing I didn't do that is because then my green wouldn't be as vibrant. It would have that undertone of the pink. So I didn't want that, but that is another thing you could totally do, is just do a wash of that color first, rather than going in with your hill or your sky later like we're going to. Now I know we did an oval, but don't sit here and follow your oval exactly. You want it to be roughed up, like the edges roughed up like the leaves are coming out of the tree. Peeking out. Now I did about maybe, I don't know what the percentage is, but let's just say 10%, 5 to 10% of the negative space peeking through. You can leave as much negative space as you want, but that's what I did. Now I'm popping in a little bit of my cad yellow onto my sap green, and I'm not going to do it everywhere. I'm going to have it almost like this, maybe the sun was shining on this side and these are the leaves that are starting to change first. So I'm going to do a little bit more yellow just in this top left corner. Like that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I think I'm gonna start the trunk first and then we're gonna give this another little layer later. So I want this to be more of like a birch tree. So it's got the white and the black bark down here. I just love birch trees. They're one of my favorite ones, probably because I love black and white combinations. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of my Payne's Gray. You could take black, whatever you want. I'm taking some Payne's Gray and I'm gonna just do a line coming down my trunk on one side, doesn't matter what side. And then what you're going to want to do is you want some of these little lines to come in. Make sure you have a little water on your brush, not a lot, but a little bit, just so your paint blends in nicely. And I'm going to start bringing in some of those little gray and black lines of the bark, like that. And I'm just gonna go from one side to the other and blend them in a little bit. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just end off my tree here, like there's a little shadow under it. I think I'm gonna pick up a bigger brush just so I can blend that in a little bit better. So I'm picking up my size 7. And I'm gonna blend that in just a little bit better, like that. Now if you want a little bit more down here, just pick up a little bit more of your gray or black, like that. All right, so we're gonna let that dry and we're gonna go back on to up here. So I'm gonna do my sap green again. I'm gonna deepen up some of my tones, maybe not everywhere, because I do like some of that lighter green peeking through. And you don't want it to look like polka dots everywhere, so make sure some of your little pouncing marks are bleeding together. So I will go ahead and add a little bit more of my yellow up here. You can let the green and the yellow blend together. It'll make more of a limey green. And then I'm gonna work on this bark a little bit more. I just want it to be a little bit deeper. Taking my Payne's Gray again, and my small little brush, this is my size 0. I'm gonna go over the marks that I just made. I do wanna leave some of that gray that's already there. I do wanna leave some of that exposed. So I'm just gonna be taking another layer and just putting it over it, but not the whole thing. So I want some of that gray, I want some of the light gray, the dark gray, the white, I want it all still showing through. Gives it a little bit more dimension. And then you can crispen up this line if you want to, again, on the side here. And under the tree is gonna be a little bit darker because it's gonna be shadowed. So you can blend that up a little bit where the green and the Payne's Gray meet. You can add even a little bit of water here just to blend this in a little bit. So like your trunk is a little shadowed even up here. And you can go ahead and dry your leaves first, or you could just go ahead and start popping in some of these branches. And if you don't dry your tree first, they will start to bleed, which is fine. But if you don't like that look, go ahead and dry your tree first and then add your branches. Okay. All right, I'm going to smooth out this edge a little bit here. Just water. All right. And I want to crispen up these trees. I want to make them pop a little bit more. So I'm just taking my violet again, going over some of the trees, maybe not the whole thing, because I like some of that pink peeking through. So kind of like what we did down here, we put the darker gray on the lighter gray. We're putting the darker purple on the lighter purple, but we still want some of that showing through because I like the variation of it. I think I also want to deepen up down here a little bit. So now's the part of the painting that you're just coming in and you're starting to deepen colors and crispen up your lines a little bit. Blend that in. And I think I want to add a little bit more of my sap green. It looks a little weak down here, so I'm going to add a little more of my sap green down on the bottom of this blue hill. Blend that in. Okay. And I think I want to deepen up my shadow just a little bit under the tree here. Take a little bit of my Payne's Gray again. Just a little section of my tree, not the whole shadow, just a little section. You could blend that out a little bit if you want to, if you think it's too much. All right, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and dry my tree and add a little bit of the orange and the pinks behind the tree a little bit. Okay, so with my size 0, I'm just gonna come in with a little bit of that orangey color and just pop it in like where we have the negative space on the tree here, just so it looks like some of that hill is behind it. Now, as I was saying before, you could have done a wash of the whole hill first, but then my greens wouldn't be as green. They'd be a little bit more brown. Now, you can call this painting done, but I know me and I like to pop things a little bit more. So I'm gonna take my purple. I'm gonna pop these trees just a little bit more. You could add a little Payne's Gray up here too. So I'm gonna add a little Payne's Gray in with that purple. I'm gonna deepen up my orange down here. Now what you do to one side of the tree, don't forget to do the other side of the tree. blend that in a little bit. Wow, that just made a huge difference. All right, I'm loving it. So I can keep going and playing with this tree and this landscape all day, but I think I'm gonna stop right there. And I just wanted to give you an idea of what it's like to do just a whimsical little landscape, a nice colorful landscape. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you liked it and learned a little something. And if you did like it, please give me a thumbs up, and you can make a comment in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this one. And you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day. Bye.